We begin today at the Mishnah on Daf Samach Amid Beis towards the bottom. Talk to Eilige Mishnah. A person is Mekadesh Sheisha al Menas Sheyeshli Beis Kur Ofar, on the condition that he has a certain measurement of ground, of a place that could grow a certain amount of produce. Beis Kur Ofar, Rashi here brings the cheshbon of what this is. Beis Kur Ofar is 30 sa'ah of a field that can grow 30 sa'ah. There's a cheshbon of the Mishkan. It's 50 by 50 amas. Is one saw. The Mishkan was sasayim. It was 50 by 100 amas. Rashi makes the cheshbon of exactly how large this space is by amas. So the issue will be mukadeshes v'yeshlei, and that's if he has. Amanas sheyeshli b'makim ploni. If he tells the isha that I have this amount of a property in that particular place. If he has in that place, mukadeshes, shall be mukadeshes. Even if he has in another place, but if he has in that particular place that he told her, shall be mukadeshes. Almanas she'eracha beis kor ofar. He's mekadesh on the condition that I will show you this beis kor of ofar. Harez mukadeshes v'yarena. He has to show her, and we're talking about over here showing her a beis kor ofar that he owns. V'imhera bebika. If he shows her in a big valley and over there's a lot of fields, but then they have nothing to do with him, none of them are his, so then she won't be mukadeshes, because the lashon of acha, she understands it to mean that he's going to show her what he owns. The Mishnah says that she'll be mukadeshes, but v'yeshle, we have to verify that he has. So the Gemara asks, even if we don't verify that he actually has, maybe it's possible that he does own this property somewhere, even if we can't figure out where. So there should be a suffix that it should be a Kidushin. V'oid, Tanya, we learned clearly in a brayse, it says, Cheshina shama yashloi. We are concerned that maybe he has this beis kor offer, even if we don't know where it is. And says the Gemara, Lekashia, ha b'kedusha vadai. The Mishnah is saying that only if we verify it, then it'll be a definite Kidushin. Ha b'kedusha suffix. The brayse is saying even if we can't verify, it'll still be a suffix Kidushin. Now, this Mishnah here, Almanas Yeshli Beis Kor Ofar, is a continuation from the previous Mishnah on Samach Amar Aleph. There it basically said a very similar thing. A person says to Isha, Mekadesh Almanas, that I have 200 zuz, and then the Mishnah said that she'll only be Mekadeshes if he shows that he has 200 zuz, and there as well, the Braisa said, if he doesn't show those 200 zuz, it'll be a Safik Kidushin. So the Gemara now says, Why does the Mishnah and the Braisa have to say this halacha when it comes to a property? And why does it have to say the same thing when it comes to money? And since the Gemara Text, it has to say both. If we would say the halacha only regarding the money, that over there, even if he doesn't show the money, still we're chayshish that he might have the money, because my money, it's more common that a person goes and puts away his money in a bank account somewhere, wherever it is, and therefore we can't figure out if he has it or not, and it'll still be a Safik Kedushin. Aval Ara, when it comes to a property, I would say, if he owns this piece of property that he says he does, there would be a rumor about this. We would know somewhere that this person owns this property. It's not something that you could hide so easily. Kamash Malon, therefore, it says over here, the Mishnah and the Braisa that says, even regarding a property, that if we see Yeshle, it's a Vadik Kedushin, but even if we don't, it's still going to be a Safik Kedushin. So the Mishnah says, if we see that he has in that place, then he shall be mukadeshes. The Gemara pshita, it's pashut. He said that place, so it has to be dafke there in that place. And so the Gemara ma'ad we would think that it doesn't have to be dafke in that place that he said. Amallah, he tells them, "My nafkalach mina." What difference is it to you if this property is in that place or in a different place? Anot tarachnu my sana. I'll bring the produce for you from wherever it ends up that it is. I'll bring it to you to the place that I said it is. Kamash Malon. Therefore, the Mishnah is saying that no, that if he said dafka in that place, it has to be dafka over there and not anywhere else. Amanas she'aracha beis kor ofar. He's going to show her this beis kor ofar. Tana. So the Braisa explains, like we saw in the Mishnah also, le'niskav nezu ela lidis mishaloi, that her kavana is with this tnai, she accepts this tnai that he's going to show her his own beis kor ofar, not just stam someone's beis kor ofar. Then it says, V'imhera bebika eina mukadeshes, if he shows her stam, a property that's in a valley that doesn't belong to her, to him that is, he's not mukadeshes. Pshita, it's obvious that he has to show her what belongs to him. I said, so according, I mentioned yesterday, according to somebody Shainim, this pshit is going on what it said in the Braisa, because the Braisa spells out that it has to be his, and then the Braisa says that if he showed her someone else's, that it will not be Mukadesha, so it's Pashit. So the Gemara answers, Leitzriche de Nokid b'distura, that property that he's showing her in the valley, it's a property that he's a worker there, he's a sharecropper. He does get a certain percent from the produce of that property. So he's not the owner, but he does have a certain share in this, so maybe that would be good enough for fulfillment of this condition. Therefore the Mishnah says that it's not.
Doesn't have to give her anything?
When he's saying that I have, no, he's just telling her that I have this. Don't forget, she's marrying him, and the fact that he has it, so she's now secure that he's going to provide for her with what he has. But it doesn't say over here that he's going to give. He just says that I have. That's it. Okay, so now the Gemara goes on to another topic over here regarding this base core offer. As we'll see in the Hemshech of the Gemara, a person says he has a base core offer. What's the condition of this property? You could have a nice big base core offer, but it has ditches in it or it has big rocks in it. When we measure to see whether you have the size of base core offer, do we include these different ditches or rocks that are inside this area? So as an introduction to this Shaila, the Gemara wants to ask regarding Kidushin, it first points out what the halacha regarding such a property with ditches and rocks in it is regarding hektish. And then what the halacha of such a property is regarding mecher, when you sell someone, base korafa, and then it'll come back to explain the halacha regarding Kidushin. So Gabi hektish nan, when it comes to hektish, we learned in the Mishnah, the halacha is as follows. Ha-maktish sadeu b'shasa yovel. A person that's maktish a property in the time when yovel went on, when all Yidden were in Eretz Yisrael, and when there was the halacha of yovel. So the halacha is, noisin b'zera choymer sa'irim, Chamishim shekel kesef. In order to redeem from hektish this property, so the pasuk says that it doesn't matter the quality of the property, if it's good quality, bad quality. You don't go by the value of it. You go by the size. If there's a zera chaymer saidim, if you have an area that can give from the zera chaymer saidim, this core of barley, that's the amount that you have to measure, and you have to redeem it with chamishim shekel kesef. You go by this size. Now, if there are deep holes or ditches in it, 10 tvachim deep, or you have these rocks that are on this property that are 10 tvachim high, they don't get measured together with this property. When you're measuring to see the size, that it has to be this size, chamishim shekel kesef, so those things are not measured together with the property. Pachas mikan, if you have the ditches or the rocks that are less than 10 tvachim high or deep, they do get measured together with the property. And on this, the question was asked, even if they can't be measured together with the property. So Rashi here says, so when you have a ditch, so there's the slope going down into the ditch. So it's because it goes down, so the slope cannot be measured together with the flat area of the property where you could plant and you can use it. So we understand that because it's a slope going down, so therefore that area cannot be counted together with the rest of the property. But nikdeshu b'apin afshayu. But that area, you have then this ditch, and then on the bottom, you have a certain area over there, and some Rishonim say that the Gemara's question is because the bottom of the ditch has an area which is 4 by 4 amis, or maybe 4 by 4 tfachim, has to have some area that you can measure for it separately. So why can't we measure that area over there at the bottom, that it does have a certain area? And the same thing also with the rocks. Even if the rocks going up, you have very, very big rocks in this property, so you can't measure the slope going up, but at the top, if there's a certain area that's flat, so why can't that area be measured as well? So over there as well, it should also be measured. What the Gemara is saying is that they should also be measured for themselves, even if you don't want to measure it together with the rest of the property. So the whole property, you're measuring to see if it has this area of zera chaymes item and how much you have to redeem it for. And then you have this other small area in the property. So let it be like a second property in the middle over here. And that should also be measured separately, that you have to redeem it. Why are we completely ignoring it? The person was makdish this area, including this, and we're just completely canceling that. We're not paying attention to this area. If you'll argue and say, because these areas where the rocks are or where the ditch is, it's a tiny area, or it's smaller than a base core, so that's an area that does not have to be redeemed. The whole property that has the size of a base core, or the Zera Chaimis Sa'irim, that's area that you have to pay for the 50 slayim to redeem it. But this area is too small, so therefore it's not counted. But the Gemara says that's not true. V'raminu, I'll ask you from what it says in the Braise Soda. When it says in the pasuk, when a person is makdish his property, so it says soda matamud loymar. Why does it say a soda, any field that a person is makdish that you have to pay to redeem it? Because the pasuk there says that when you redeem, you have to redeem a zera of chaymer sa'irim, which is giving a certain measurement of how large this field is. B'chamishim, that then you have to pay 50 shkolim for this. So I would think only if the property is this size of a zera chaymes sa'irim, then you have to redeem it for 50 shkalim. Minayin l'rabbis, how do I know that you also have to redeem lesech, which is half that amount? Lesech is a half a kor, or v'chatzi lesech, a half a lesech, a sa'ah, only one sa'ah, or a tarkiv, which is a half a sa'ah, or v'chatzi tarkiv, a half a tarkiv, v'afil roiva, or even a quarter of a tarkiv, minayin. In other words, how do I know that you, even when the property is much smaller than the zera chaymes item, than this kor, so then you'll have to redeem it according to the percent of the 50 shkalim. 50 shkalim for a kor, and then whatever smaller amount it is, so you'll have to redeem it percentage of the 50 according to its size. Talmud Laima Sada. Therefore, the pasuk says Sada. So it says over there in the pasuk that if you makdish the Sada, that it means any size of a Sada. Mikol Mokim, any size of a Sada. So over here as well, when you have this property, so you have to be paid the whole property with chamishim shkalim, but whatever ditch or avanim there are in the property, so you should have to redeem them separately, with percentage-wise, according to the amount that their size is. Maruk for Bar Chama, some Bar Chama said it's not true. You would have to. But this Mishnah that we're quoting here that says that you can ignore those ditches or the rocks. So here the Gemara starts off regarding the ditches. That's the main question of the Gemara. We're talking about over here that these ditches are full of water. They can't be planted at all. As the pasuk says, that what you have to redeem, you're redeeming the zera chaymer sa'irim, area that could be planted. And I'll prove to you that the ditches here are full of water. Because the other example it says there is that it has tall rocks in the property. So just like the tall rocks, usually rocks is an area that you can't plant either. So too the ditches, and not just some ditches that at the bottom it could be used for something, to plant there something. No, it's full of water. So therefore, that you can't plant them. Shmami no. So that proves this pshat over here in the Braisa, or in the Mishnah rather. But the Gemara still further clarifies the pshat here, ihachi, if that's the case, that it's totally full of water, so then why did the Mishnah give this amount of 10 tfachim? Only if it's 10 tfachim deep or 10 tfachim high. Afilu pachis mikanami, even less than that amount as well. It's full of water anyways. If the point over here was that because of its depth or height, dafka 10 tfachim, it's like a reshus for itself, so then maybe the 10 tfachim matters. But if anyways, the point over here is the fact that it's not ro'i to plant there, because it's rocks or because it's water. So then the height of 10 tfachim doesn't matter. Even 5 tfachim should be the same halacha. So the Gemara says, no, it does matter, because if it's not 10 tfachim high, then I say, Hanu nagni da'are mikro. Then this area, this ditch that's only 5 tfachim deep, it's not deep at all, and it has water there, I would say that this is like the basin of the field. That's the way. No field is 100% flat, so it has a little bit of a ditch, and there's some water there. So it's like it's considered to be part of the field itself. It's just like a basin of the field. And the same thing also regarding rocks that are only 5 tfachim high. Shedre da'ara mikro. It's like the spine of the field. There's just some rocks sticking out, but it's considered to be part of the field itself, and it would be measured together with the whole field. Even if there's water there, and even if the rocks is an area that you can't plant there, but that's the nature, that no field you can plant every single inch. It's going to be not even, it's going to be some areas that you can't plant, but it's still going to be measured together with the rest of the field. So what comes out of here from what we see by hektish? If it's not full of water, so then these ditches in the field, or if even the rocks are such kind of rocks that it's still roy to plant there something, it's not mamish 100% rocks, you could plant there something, so then you will have to pay to redeem them, even if you don't have to redeem them mamish together with the rest of the property, as the Gemara said before, ba'api nafshayu, but at least it will, as long as it's not an area that you can't plant, you will have to pay to redeem them. This has been a geya to hektish. Now, Gabi Mechetnan, on the other hand, when it comes to a person that's selling a property, over here we learned in the Mishnah, a person tells his friend, I'm selling you this property of a base core of a field. And in this field, it was these ditches that are 10 tfachim deep, or these rocks that are 10 tfachim high. They are not measured together with the rest of the property. Because if it's not, if it has this depth or this height, it's like a different thing. It's not part of the same property. So like a different rishus. Second. Pachis Nikan, that is, if it's less than that height or depth, then in Dodemima, then it is measured together with the property. Again, the point there is no property can be 100% flat if it has certain ditches or certain heights in it. So if it's less than 10 tfachim, it is considered to be together with the property. But if it's already 10 tfachim, it's considered to be a reshus for itself. V'amar Mar Ukva Bar Chama, and Mar Ukva Bar Chama came here and clarified the pshat in this Mishnah regarding selling a property. Here, even if it's not full of water, as long as it's this measurement of 10 tfachim high or deep, then it's not considered to be one reshus together with this property. So you tell a person, I'm selling you a base core offer, if it has these nekayim or slayim that are 10 tfachim, so then it's not considered to be part of this karka here, and therefore you didn't deliver what you said you're going to sell for this person. So that's the halacha by a sale. What's the reason? If it's not full of water, isn't it something that could be used over there as well? You can plant something, you can do something with it. So you're providing him, you're giving him what you said you're going to give him. So Rav Papa explained the reason is person doesn't want that he's paying money, and you're telling him you're selling him one property that's a base core offer, and instead what he's getting for his money is an area that looks like 2 or 3 different properties. There's one place, then there's another karka that has a different height, and there's a third karka that has a depth. So he was paying for one property, and he wasn't paying for, it's a big tircha that he has to have a property that has these different heights like different properties. He was paying for one. That's the halacha b'negei to a sale. So now the question is, what's by Kidushin? Ha mai. This is the main point that Gemara comes to here. By Kidushin, a person is Mekadesh Isha and tells her, Al Manas, that I have a base core offer. What is this base core offer? What's going to be the halacha over here? Lahektish midamin Allah. Do we say by Kidushin that we compare it to Hektish and say that if he says he's giving her a base core offer, so if you have ditches and racks inside this base core, so then you could count it for that size of base core offer as long as it's not full of water, as long as it's an area that you can plant for something, even though it's like 2 different fields, but it doesn't matter. It all is something that has that measurement, and therefore it can be combined. Or no, I compare it to a sale, and I say that base core offer has to be one area, and it can't be 2 different places like it is by a sale. Says the Gemara, Mistavre, it's logical to say that by Kedushin we compare it to Hektish, because the Omar law, Ano tarachne v'zarane umaisina. The point of the fact that he has this property, or he's going to give her this property, is that she's going to have the produce that comes from it, from what grows there. So even if it's not mamish one karka, it's not like by a sale where the person is paying money for this. And if when you pay money, so you have to get what your money's worth is, what the stam, in the way people speak. They say, I want to have a base core offer, he wants to have one karka. But by Kiddushin, the main point was that she's going to have the produce that grows from it, and therefore, he says, I'll bring it to you, even if it's not, you have to go down and you have to climb up, I'll take care of it for you, I'll bring it for you. So before in the Gemara the Gemara said that a man cannot say such a svara that I'm going to bring for you. That's over there in the Mishnah before, if the man specified befeirish and said b'mok and ploini, he added b'mok and ploini to make it clear to her, don't worry, no one's going to have to bring it for you, you're not going to have to even rely on me to bring it for you. He said b'mok and ploini, then he can't say I'll bring it for you. But if he didn't say b'mok and ploini, he just said I'm giving you a base core offer, even if that base core offer turns out to be like in a few different heights and places, doesn't matter. He wasn't medayik mak and ploini, so then she's relying on the fact that he's going to bring it for her.
But if he's mekadesh amanas, that he gives her a base core offer,
chayr, it's the same thing. Huh? No, chayr, it's the same thing. Even when he says Mekadesh Almanas is going to give her, it's also, he can say that he's going to bring it for her. That's what it's. I think that's a pshat in the Gemara over here.
He's just saying that I'm going to show you a base core.
Huh? Maybe. Okay, I think in the lashon of the Gemara it's mashma even if he's saying he's going to give it to her. Sagt der Heilige Mishnah, Rav Meir Omer, Rav Meir says. Now this Mishnah is going to discuss the halachas of a Tnai B'chlal that we had over here in this Perek, in the previous Perek, that a man could say by Kidushin, or by Gittin, and by other places as well. So Rav Meir says, Kol Tnai she'enei ketnai b'nei Gad b'nei Ruven. If the Tnai is not the way the Tnai was made with b'nei Gad and b'nei Ruven, so b'nei Gad and b'nei Ruven wanted to have the territory on Eved HaYarden, on the east side of the Yarden, for all the behemoths that they had, instead of taking their Nachla and Eretz Yisrael. So Moshe Rabbeinu made a condition with them, as we'll see in a moment. So every Tnai, in order for it to take effect, has to be like the Tnai of b'nei Gad and b'nei Ruven. So if it's not, ain't a Tnai. The Tnai does not take effect. Shenema, as the pasuk says, how is the Tnai made over there? Vayomer aleim, Moshe Rabbeinu tells b'nei Gad and b'nei Ruven, Im Yavru b'nei Gad and b'nei Ruven, if they're going to cross over the Yarden and fight with the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael, so then they're going to get their Nachla that they wanted in Eretz HaGilad on the other side of the Yarden. Uksiv, but then the pasuk adds and says, Vim lo Yavru, if they're not going to cross over Chalutzim to fight, then the pasuk says they're not going to get their chelik they wanted. Rather, v'noichazu b'seichechem be'eretz Canaan. They're going to get the Yerusha together with Yidden in Eretz Canaan. Not what they wanted. So over here, why does Moshe Rabbeinu have to make a double Tnai with them? Isn't it self-understood that they're only going to get what they wanted with the condition that he made with them? And then if you won't fulfill the condition, miklal hein at shemei alav, that if you don't fulfill it, then they're not going to get that portion. Self-understood. Why does he have to spell out the negative as well? That if you don't fulfill it, then you won't get that portion you want. Rather, you'll get together with Yidden in Eretz Canaan. Elamai, from here we see when you make a condition, in order for the condition to be serious, and if you don't fulfill it, it stops the action of taking effect, there has to be a double Tnai. We do not say Niklal Hein at Shemei Alav. You must say both the positive and the negative. So regarding a get, if a person gives his wife a get and says, it's only a get, I'll Tnai that you give me $200. That Tnai that he made is only going to be a Tnai if he says, and if you don't give me, it won't be a get. Or the same with Kidushin. Almanas, that I'll give you $200. He has to say the negative as well. And some Rishonim explain, I think the Rashba, other Rishonim explain, because when a person does something, an action like Gittin and Kidushin, and according to most Rishonim, it's by a Mekech or Memker as well, by a sale. So the act that he's doing, he's serious about, he wants it, especially when it comes to Gittin and Kiddushin. The person is coming to be Mekadesh Isha, this is the person he wants to marry. So the Tanai is not taking serious that he's going to actually stop the Kiddushin unless he says the negative as well. He shows it clearly that if not, I don't want this to take effect. That's, and actually somebody Shaina, I believe the Ravid says that this whole Indian is only regarding Gittin and Kiddushin, where it's a very serious matter and the person wants it to take effect. Even when he says the Tanai, we're not going to take the Tanai serious unless he says it double. And by Mekech or Memke, this concept doesn't apply. Rashi also brings that from this comparison that we learn out from Tnai B'nei Gad and B'nei Ruven, we also learn other halachas regarding how the Tnai is to be made. We had this in the Gemara in Gittin, has to be Tnai Kodim Lamaisa, Hein Kodim Lalav, exactly like it was said over there by B'nei Gad and B'nei Ruven. But over here, the Mishnah is focusing just on this detail, which is known as Tnai Kofel, that you have to have the Tnai is to be doubled, the Hein and the Lav, in order for it to be taken seriously, that if it's not fulfilled, it'll hold up the Kiddushin of taking effect. Rav Chanina ben Gamliel says there's no raya from the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu said the positive and the negative of his Tnai. Moshe Rabbeinu had to say what's going to happen if they don't fulfill the Tnai. Shel Mole Kain, because if not, Yesh b'mashma, then it would sound like that what he was telling them is Shafilu beretz kanala yinchalu, that if they're not going to fulfill the Tnai, they're not going to get anything. They're not going to get what they wanted in Eretz Gilad, and they're not going to get a chelik in Eretz Canaan either. Maybe there'll be a knas, the fact that they didn't join and they wanted to have their chelik in Eretz Gilad and they didn't join the Yidden to fight in Eretz Yisrael. Maybe they'll get nothing. They'll have no nachla anywhere at all. They'll have to just live by the other Yidden. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu has to say the positive and the negative, that if they fulfill, they get what they wanted in Eretz Gilad, and if they don't fulfill the Tnai, then they're not going to lose their portion that they would get otherwise together with the Yidden in Eretz Canaan. So therefore, you have no raya from here that for every Tnai you have to have a Tnai kofel. Over here, it's something, there's a reason why Moshe Rabbeinu had to clarify this. But otherwise, the klal would be miklal hein at the shemei alav. When you make a Tnai from the positive, I can understand the negative. So the Gemara begins here with what Rab Chanina just said. It's a very good taina to Rab Meir's Raya. Sagt the Gemara, Shape Kamalei Rab Chanina ben Gamliel Rab Meir. Isn't Rab Chanina ben Gamliel saying a very good point here to Rab Meir that there's a reason why Moshe Rabbeinu had to double the T'nai? Amalach Rab Meir will answer you that there's still something extra in the pasuk. If you would say that when Moshe Rabbeinu is saying the negative, and if you don't fulfill the T'nai to go over, and then he tells them what will happen, if all of this is just to clarify the point that Reb Chanina ben Gamliel says, that they're not going to lose out their achuza that they would have gotten otherwise in Eretz Yisrael, then lichtay ve'im lo yavru v'neichazu b'seichechem. That if they're not going to go and join the Yidden, they're not going to fulfill the T'nai, then v'neichazu, you're going to get your Yerusha that you would have gotten otherwise. You're not going to lose everything. You are going to get your basic Yerusha in Eretz Yisrael. Be'eretz Canaan lo mali. Why is it necessary for the pasuk to add? Why is Moshe Rabbeinu telling them you're going to get only in Eretz Canaan, which means only in Eretz Canaan and not in Eretz Gilad? He's trying to exclude and tell them in the negative that you're not going to get Eretz Gilad. He already told them the positive, that if they fulfill the T'nai of going together with Eden to conquer, then they will get Eretz Gilad. Here, when he tells them, and if not, you won't get, besides clarifying that they will still get their Yerusha in Eretz Yisrael, which is understood from V'neichazu b'seichechem, there's another detail that Moshe Rabbeinu adds, Be'eretz Canaan, which means only here and not in Eretz Gilad. That's an extra emphasis, which is not necessary. Why does he have to say, and not in Eretz Gilad? Isn't that self-understood from the hain, from the positive, that if they fight, they'll get? And so you understand, if they won't fight with Yidden, they won't get. So the words Eretz Canaan, Shma Mino, T'nai Kofluda. So this was added over here as a double T'nai because Miklal Hain, Iyat Shemei Elav, and therefore you have to make it clear that if you don't fulfill, you're not going to get your portion in Eretz Gilad. So it's still a good raya from that extra word, Eretz Canaan. What does Reb Chanina ben Gamliel answer to this? Reb Chanina ben Gamliel Amar or Amalach will tell you as follows. No, the Torah does have to say clearly Eretz Canaan over here. Right? So as we'll see over here, what Chanina Gamliel is going to say over here is, there's two different details here. There's Eretz Gilad, and in Eretz Gilad, what did Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven want? They wanted to have the whole territory just for themselves, which will give them a much larger portion than what the rest of Klal Yisrael is going to get in Eretz Yisrael. And then there is the regular chelik, the regular portion that they would have gotten in Eretz Yisrael. Now, in Eretz Gilad, if we're not going to give Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven what they want, so what would happen with that territory? It would be divided with all of Klal Yisrael equally. And all 12 Shvatim, including Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven, would get a certain portion over there. So therefore, Reb Chanina ben Gamliel says as follows. If the Torah would not say over here that if they don't fulfill the condition, you're still going to get your regular Yerusha, but it would not say Be'eretz Canaan, Hava Mineh. Then I would think to say as follows. If you don't fulfill the T'nai of fighting with Yidden, you're going to get a regular portion, not the portion you wanted, which means the whole Eretz Gilad should be yours, but you're going to get a percent, 1 of 12, a percent. All Yidden are going to get a portion in Eretz Gilad, and you're going to get your percent like everyone else in Eretz Gilad. Aval Eretz Canaan, Klal Loi. But in Eretz Canaan, if they don't fight, maybe they would get nothing. And Rashi explains the reason is because they didn't join the fight. They didn't help Yidden conquer the land. So in Eretz Canaan, they don't deserve to get anything. So yet, Taka, it says in the Pasuk, V'neichazu b'seichechem, that you're going to yarshin together with Yidden, but who says that's in Eretz Yisrael? Maybe that's only a certain portion in Eretz Gilad, but in Eretz Canaan, they get absolutely nothing. So therefore, the pasuk had to clarify that if they don't fight with Yidden, they're going to get a portion in Eretz Canaan as well. So that it's not extra b'chal. Again, so Rav Chanina ben Gamliel argues that whatever Moshe Rabbeinu is telling them here is necessary to clarify what the T'nai is and what happens if they don't fulfill the T'nai. So there's no raya from here for this klal that you must have a T'nai kafel because you don't say in the klal heina to shemei alav. But Rav Meir will answer this and tell you, when it says, when Moshe Rabbeinu tells them, that they'll get a portion, they'll get a achuzah together with Yidden, what does b'seichechem mean? Kol echad yisluchu mashma. B'seichechem means amongst Yidden, wherever Yidden will get. That's not only in Eretz Gilad. It doesn't say, v'neichazu b'seichechem in Eretz Gilad. B'seichechem means everywhere. They'll get a portion, 1 of 12 in Eretz Gilad. They'll get their portion, 1 of 12 in Eretz Canaan. Or really, it's not only 1 of 12, it's 2 Shvatim, B'nei Gad and B'nei Reuven. They'll get their portion that both these Shvatim deserve, both in Eretz Canaan and Eretz Gilad. That's what's understood from the words, v'neichazu b'seichechem. It's not necessary to add this additional clarification of Eretz Canaan that they're going to get over there in Eretz Canaan. So here the Gemara brings a brayse where it tells us what Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel said to Rabbi Meir. Tanya, Amar Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel. Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel said to Rabbi Meir as follows. How do we understand what Moshe Rabbeinu was telling them over here with the whole arichis where he says the positive and the negative? Why did he have to spell it all out? So again, here Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel is going to try to make the point that it's not because of this concept of Tanai Kofel to show that you're serious and you can't learn the negative from the positive. No, it's necessary to spell it all out. So, what can we compare what Moshe Rabbeinu is telling Bnei Gad, Bnei Reuven to a person which is dividing his properties for his children? Omar, so he says as follows: this son will get one property. Another son will get a second property. And a third son, if he's going to give 200 zuz, then the Yiddish Sadaplainis. He's going to get a third property. He's going to get another third property more larger than what his brothers are getting if he fulfills this Tanai of giving the 200 zuz. Then he's going to get that property. And then the father says, V'im lo yitain. If he's not going to give this money, what's going to happen now? Yirash im echav b'shar nachasim. Then he will be able to participate with his brothers in the other two properties that they get. He'll be able to have a portion in those properties. That's the T'nai that the father made. Now, the nimshal of this is the two properties that he gave the other sons. The nimshal here is Eretz Yisrael, the area that all the other Shvatim are getting. The third property that he's giving for this third son is like Eretz Gilad, the place in Ever HaYarden, which Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven are getting. And the 200 zuz, the nimshal for that is the fighting. If they're going to come and join the Yidden to fight and conquer Eretz Yisrael. So now the Gemara says, what we see over here, when the father said both, what's going to happen if you fulfill the T'nai, and what's going to happen if they don't, if this brother here, that is, does not fulfill the T'nai. So now, how do we know? What causes that we're going to say that if the brother does not fulfill his T'nai, he will be able to inherit from the other two properties that the father gave the brother? Why are we saying this? It's only because the father doubled and spelled it out. The father made it clear that if he does not fulfill the T'nai, he's going to get together with his other brothers. In other words, over here, Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel is pointing out that it was necessary for the father to say what's going to happen if the brother does not fulfill the T'nai. Because otherwise you would have thought, what's going to happen if this brother doesn't fulfill the T'nai? He's going to get, in the third property that the father gave him, a fair portion, similar to what his brothers got, not this whole third property that's more. He's going to get a fair portion over there, and not any extra. And also in the other two properties that he gave the brother, they're not going to get anything. This one third brother is not going to get anything for what he gave, the other two properties that he gave the brothers. Those two properties he dedicated for them. If you don't fulfill the T'nai, so then you're not going to get from those two properties, and even from the third property, you're going to get a portion similar to what they got. But now, what did the father say? The father had to come and clarify that if you're not going to fulfill the T'nai, so then you will be able to inherit together with your brothers in the other two properties. So Alma, what I see over here is Kfeile l'shar nechasim u'dekamahani. That, sorry, where am I over here? Alma, that is going back up. Mi gadam. Let's start again from where I think I was holding by mi gadam. Mi gadam le'lidashim echav b'shar nechasim kfei le'gadam le. The only reason we know that if the brother does not fulfill the condition he could get together with the other brothers is because the father spelled it out clearly. So now, therefore, we know that he can get from the other two properties. So now, what's the nimshal for this? It was necessary for Moshe Rabbeinu to say that if the Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven don't fulfill their T'nai, what's going to happen? That they're going to be able to get a portion in Eretz Canaan. Otherwise, I would think that they get nothing in Eretz Canaan. I would say that if they don't fulfill the T'nai, then they'll get in Eretz Gilad just a sliver, a portion similar to what the Yidden get in Eretz Yisrael, together with everyone else. And in Eretz Canaan, they get nothing because they didn't join the Yidden. Over here as well, just like in the Mashal. The two properties are dedicated to those two brothers. And this third brother, if he doesn't fulfill the night, doesn't get anything in those two properties. Just will get a sliver in the other two properties. So the point is, we see over here that there's nothing extra in what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying, the positive and the negative. Now the Gemara asks that if you look over here, at what point Rab Chanina ben Gamliel is making with this mashal to Rab Meir, and you look at the point that Rab Chanina ben Gamliel said in the Mishnah to Rab Meir, it's not the same thing. The point Rab Chanina ben Gamliel is saying from the mashal here is not the same as what he's saying in the Mishnah. Why? Because Hasam Katani, in the Mishnah, Rab Chanina ben Gamliel is saying that if Moshe Rabbeinu would not say what would happen if they don't fulfill the Tnai, then yesh b'mashmash afilu be'eretz Canaan lo yinchalu. Then this means that they're not going to get even afilu, or the lashon of the Mishnah actually was af. They're not going to get anything, not in Eretz Canaan and not in Eretz Gilad. Rab Chanina ben Gamliel is saying that you need to clarify the positive or actually the negative. If they don't fulfill the mashal, what's going to happen? Because otherwise, you would have thought if they don't fulfill the Tnai, they get 0. That's what Rab Chanina ben Gamliel said in that Mishnah. Alma kfeile le'eretz gilad nami mahani. If so, that means that it's necessary for Moshe Rabbeinu to say the other side, to say what happens if they don't fulfill the Tnai, because otherwise we would think they get not an Eretz Canaan and not even an Eretz Gilad either. Which in the mashal, that would be that if the brother doesn't give the 200 zuz, he's not going to get not anything in the third property that the father gave him, and not in the other 2 properties. He gets nothing. But over here in the Braise, the way Rab Chanina ben Gamliel puts the mashal, that's not what he says. Katani, what does it say? Mi gadam loy lirishim echav b'shar nechasim kfeile gadam loy. That it's necessary for the father to clarify what happens if the brother does not fulfill the Tnai, because otherwise we would think that he doesn't get together with the brothers in the 2 properties that they have. In the third property that the father wanted to give him, over here, for that you don't need the father to clarify. That's pashut, that he's going to get a portion in this third property. The only chiddush over here, why he has to repeat the Tnai and say what happens if he does not do the Tnai, is to say that he could even get a portion with the other 2 properties. The reason that it's necessary to say the negative if you don't fulfill the Tnai is not because otherwise I would think if you don't fulfill the Tnai you get nothing. No, I would just think that you can get with the third property a portion together with your brothers, but you don't get in the other 2 properties anything. In the Nimshal, that would be that if Moshe Rabbeinu would not repeat the Tnai, then I would say that you'll get a sliver in Eretz Gilad, but in Eretz Canaan you'll get nothing. So that's different than what it said in the Mishnah, that if you don't repeat the Tnai, then they'll get absolutely nothing, not in Eretz Gilad and not in Eretz Canaan. So the Gemara answers like Kashya. This is not a contradiction from what it says in the Braisa to what it says in the Mishnah. Why? Because mekamed the name of Rab Meir v'noichazu. In the Mishnah, it's saying what the conversation between Rab Meir and Rab Chanina ben Gamliel was before Rab Meir said that his raya is from only the extra 2 words of Beretz Canaan. Chatchila, we thought that, or Rab Chanina ben Gamliel understood that Rab Meir was saying that the whole entire thing, that Moshe Rabbeinu has to say the negative, what happens if you don't fulfill the Tnai, it's all extra. The whole entire thing is extra. So therefore, Rab Chanina ben Gamliel originally came and answered no. That Moshe Rabbeinu has to say that they're going to get something. If he's not going to repeat the Tnai, then there's a svara to say that you get absolutely nothing. That's the conversation of the Mishnah. But then over here in the Braise, it's telling us the conversation between Rab Meir and Rab Chanina ben Gamliel already on a different stage. In the Braise, it's after Rab Meir came and clarified that he understands that Moshe Rabbeinu has to repeat and say what happens if they're not going to fulfill the Tnai. Because otherwise I would think they get absolutely nothing. So Rab Meir says, yeah, you're right, I understand that he has to say that they're still going to get their portion in Eretz Yisrael. And therefore it has to say, v'neichazu b'seichechem. But it doesn't have to say the words Beretz Canaan. Why is it saying Beretz Canaan, which means in Dafka in Eretz Canaan and not in Eretz Gilad? That's a repetition. On that, Rab Chanina ben Gamliel came and answered, and here in the Braisa you have the mashal, the point that the Gemara said before already. Because if you won't clarify Beretz Canaan, then I would think that they're going to get their portion, a sliver in Eretz Gilad. Their portion, percentage-wise, of what they have to get in Eretz Gilad, together with the other Shvatim. But in Eretz Canaan, since they didn't fight with the Yidden, they're going to get nothing. That was the answer of Chanina ben Gamliel at this stage of the conversation. So over here, the Braise that's bringing this mashal, that over here, the father has to clarify what happens if you're not going to fulfill the Tanai, that you're going to get with the brothers in the other 2 lands. And the nimshal of the other two lands is Eretz Canaan. It's because over here, he's discussing, Rab Chanina ben Gamliel is explaining what we learn out from the extra words about Eretz Canaan, that you shouldn't think that they're going to get just in Eretz Gilad together with the other Shvatim. But in Eretz Canaan, they get nothing. So he brings this mashal over here to point this out. That's exactly what the father is clarifying, that Eretz Canaan, or in this case, the two other properties that you're going to get together with the brothers in the two other properties. So therefore, Rab Chanina ben Gamliel is arguing that there's nothing extra here in this pasuk, and you can't learn out the rule of Tnai Kafel from here. Now, here the Gemara is going to bring a couple of different cases in Torah where you find that it says a Tnai on something, and it says both the positive and the negative. So now, Bishloi, Rab Meir, according to the Meir, it's understood. This is regarding Cain when he sinned. It's actually in this week's Parsha. So Cain, after he killed Hevel, the Eibusha tells him that if you're going to be good, you'll do tshuva. So then says, you'll be carried. I'll give you schar for this. If you won't do tshuva, lepesa chatas revitz. At the opening of your grave, the Aveda will crouch there, and you'll be punished for this. So it says both the positive and the negative. So it's understood, according to Rab Meir, he can't understand the negative if you don't say it clearly. But according to Rab Chanina, why is it necessary to say both the positive and the negative? It shouldn't be automatically understood that if you won't do tshuva, then you'll be punished. And says the Gemara, no, otherwise I would think to say, im seitev agra. If you do tshuva, then you're going to get schar. Vim loit seitev, if you're not going to do tshuva, then loy agra v'loy dina. Maybe he won't get schar, but he also won't get punished either. Kamash Malon, therefore he has to say clearly, he has to spell out what will happen if it's not going to be seitev. That it's going to be lepesach hatas revitz, that he's going to get punished for the avedas that he did. Sagt the Gemara weiter, another case of a Tnai in the Torah. So this is the Tnai that Avram Avinu makes with Eliezer when he's going to get a wife for Rivka, for Yitzchak, that is. And Avram Avinu tells him that you should only go to my family and you should not go anywhere else to take from Bnei Canaan. That's what he tells him to do. Then there's a condition. If my family and the girl there is ready to come and you can bring her, so then you're not allowed to go to Bnei Canaan. But if they're not ready, if they're not going to give, if they don't want, so then os tinokim eilasi, so then you know that this shvua I made with you that you shouldn't take from Bnei Canaan is off, and you could. So according to Rab Meir, it's necessary to say both sides, even though in the beginning Avram said clearly the positive, that my shvua is that you should go and see if first from my family if they're ready to give, and that's my shvua. Don't go to Bnei Canaan, go to my family, see if they're ready, if you can get a wife from there. So it's self-understood that if they're not ready, then you could go to Bnei Canaan. So the pasuk nevertheless has to spell it out, because otherwise you would think that true he made this tonight, but the tonight is not binding. And even if he doesn't go first to the family, then he could still go. He can go to others to Bnei Canaan. So it's necessary to spell it out according to Rab Meir. But why is it necessary to spell out both sides? Once you say the positive, that you have to go to my family, it's understood that if they're not ready to, if you can't get a wife from there, then he's going to be clean from the shvuah. Answers the Gemara, it's trich. I have to say both sides. Because otherwise, I would think to say as follows: if he goes to Avram's family and the girl, she's ready to come, but his family is not ready to let her go. So what he should do is he should bring her against their will. And that's part of the shvuah, that he has to bring her against their will. So therefore, Kamash Malon, if you look over here in this pasuk where it says As tinokim me'alasi, when Avram is explaining and saying the other side of when this Tanai, by saying both sides, what did he say when he said As tinokim me'alasi? So the pasuk there says V'im lo yitnu loch va'yisa nokim me'alasi. Yitnu goes in the family. It was necessary for Avram to clarify exactly when he's going to be exempt from this shvuah. It's not enough that you went and it's not only dependent, that is, on the girl herself if she wants to come, but it's dependent on the family. As long as the family doesn't want, you're already going to be potter from my shvuah. That's a chiddush. That's a point that Avram has to clarify that wouldn't be understood on its own. Now the Gemara here, it just adds regarding this Tanai here, that the truth is that the same is the reverse also. When it says in the pasuk in Loiseva Isha that if the girl does not want to go, Lamali, why is the pasuk saying this? It's terech, it has to tell you that Salkadaita Chamine, because it says im lo yitnu, focusing on the family. So I would think, if they are ready to give her to go to get married to Yitzchak, but she doesn't want to come, naisi bal karcha. So he should bring her also against her will. That's part of the tonight. Kamash malon. Therefore, he said, Avram Avinu is saying, no, it has to be with the haskama, with the agreement of both the family and the girl, in this case, Rivka herself. And that was what the tonight was. Another case in the Torah where we see that the Torah says a double lashon regarding a tnai. The Torah says, if you follow and you do David's mitzvah, so then, and then it says also the negative as well. If Yidden will not follow mitzvahs, it says what will happen then. But why does it have to say both the positive and the negative? Answers the Gemara, it's necessary to say both. I would think that if you didn't follow mitzvahs to get a bracha, if they don't follow the mitzvahs, so then loy bracha v'loy klala. Not going to be either, not going to no bracha, taka, but also no klala, kamash malan. Therefore, it has to say the positive and the negative to say that if they don't follow the mitzvahs, it'll be a klala as well. But if they do follow the mitzvahs, and then it'll be a bracha.